Excellent. So let me close this too. Now, I will encourage you to post your questions at the chat as well as discuss at the very end. I will try to complete the session and then at the very end open for discussions. Otherwise, it can create a bit of a challenge trying to answer questions on the chat while I'm presenting at the same time. So welcome to this session. I will be discussing today writing-reading connections and reading-writing connections. I would like to share that this work is part of the literacy series, which is part of our literacy specialist program. This is our revised ILA, International Literacy Association aligned program. We have 5 courses for its completion of the certificate, starting with assessment instruction for pre-K to 2, assessment instruction for grades 3 to 5, assessment instruction for secondary 6 to 12. So the certificate for literacy specialist covers K to 12, pre-K to 12. And then we have literacy leadership courses, and a special education course that addresses elementary placement as well as secondary placement. If you have any interest in the program, do not hesitate to email me. I am the leader of the literacy specialist program, and we also plan to hold a session on to answer any questions that interested members of the school systems have this Thursday. So during this session, I will be discussing and sharing reading and writing connections and what reading and writing connections truly mean. This is a term that you have heard and you have read several times. We say that writing and reading are connected. Of course, the oxymoron in some ways is that often we will see writing and reading separately provided within schools, within classrooms, and we will see often again that there are silos on the presentation of reading tasks and writing tasks, which as students progress into their career, in the schooling career, we will see that this can have an impact on their ability to synthesize information, especially in the secondary level, synthesize information in order to present it in writing across different subject areas. Or they will face difficulties understanding genres, multi-genres, and taking notes in order to combine them and write a synthesis paper or a research paper. So writing and reading, we say that they are connected, and you hear that many times. So the Institute of Educational Sciences, the IES, has a practice guide that was published in elementary as well as for secondary writing, with guidelines about what reading and writing should look like, or what writing instruction should look like. And one of the recommendations was to make connections, explicit connections, direct connections between reading and writing. And actually they said that they have a shared pool of knowledge, meaning that improvement in one will result in improvement on the other. And they presented it exactly as it's posted on the slide, as a well, and that reading and writing are the buckets that they draw from the same well. Recently, I was reading that it is an outlet, that they are 2 plugs from the same source, from the same outlet. So in some ways, you can think that reading and writing, they share really cognitive space. Cognitively, they are connected. And when we say that they are connected, they are because they draw from the same pool of knowledge. So domain knowledge content will be drawn from both reading and writing. In order for you to have content to write, you need to read about something and then provide the information in writing. Another source of knowledge, another core knowledge, is the meta knowledge, and that has to do with specific goals of writing, and that writers draw from what they know about purposes to interpret meanings, make their own meanings. So I'm going to read something, I'm going to understand the function of it in order to write about something. Knowledge about letters, that's the universal attributes, words, syntax, features of text. These are pools of knowledge that you will see both in reading and writing, and knowledge of strategies in order to use and knowledge and create knowledge. This will come for and will be applied for both reading and writing. So I write a summary. I need to read the content, take notes in order to organize it in my writing. Now, according to sociocognitive theory, both of them have rhetorical relations. Why? You read, and that way the reader communicates with the author, and the writer communicates with a reader. And you write because you write for readers. You, as the author, communicate with your readers. So when you write, you're considering at all times the audience, and you are reading, when you read with as an audience, with a specific purpose in order to make meaning. And then again, when you're writing, you're considering the discourse and the purpose in order to clearly communicate to a reader. So there is that sociocognitive theory that says that there is a rhetorical space where these two domains really communicate. There is the functional theory as well that states that they are combined, those two, reading and writing. They really share spaces because you use them together in order to complete a specific task. So I will read and I'll take notes at the same time. So one is supporting the other in order to complete the final task. So they are not separate. Now, there has been studies that in meta-analytic work where meta-analysis is like an additional statistical analysis of other studies that have specific criteria, like their experimental type of works, where we have seen that there are specific effects on reading from instruction on writing. So when students are taught specific writing tasks, improvements in reading comprehension take place. So students write about what they read, and we know that they will write about information that they read. Teaching students now how to write improves their reading comprehension, as this relates to text structures, paragraph, or even sentence construction. Teaching them sentence construction and spelling will improve their reading fluency. So if I teach them sentence combining, and if I teach them how to improve on their spelling, that will have an effect on the way they decode the words and the way that they combine word pieces in order to phrase as they read, improving their fluency. Spelling now improves phonological awareness. Spelling improves reading comprehension, and you can think of it on derivatives, right? So where words come from, or syllables and affixes. I'm teaching you in spelling, you will see a change in the way that you understand the meaning of specific words. And of course, spelling improves word reading. In addition now to these, we see that writing instruction improves students' ability to summarize, students' ability to take notes, students' ability to create questions. So questioning improves their ability to make meaning, because they learn as they read to question the information that's presented. Now, what else is it that we see from meta-analytic work that makes a difference? Teaching students to read specific reading strategies improve writing. So if you teach them phonics, you will see improvements on their spelling. And that makes sense, because I will be teaching someone how to decode words with silent E, for example, and then I will see that their spelling of their silent E will improve. And that is because one transfers to the other, because they both share similar spaces. Comprehension improves writing quality. That is because now I will not be reading anymore the text without a purpose, but I will read the text as a reader would. Observing readers. There have been studies where they have examined readers who were trying to make meaning of text provided to them, and the writers were better able to understand what was wrong with the writing because of the questions the readers posed. the moments of confusion the readers had helped the writers better understand how to identify, clearly present criteria on their type of writing they were working on. And then reading and analyzing others' text improves writing. Why? Because you read the text critically, you apply to the text evaluation criteria, and you're trying to make meaning by dissecting the text and by looking at the structural elements of that genre. So, for example, by reading and analyzing a persuasive paper, an argument, you are better able to understand the position of the author, the reasons that were included, or the evidence, and even how clear the evidence were, or how persuasive the evidence were, or what was the origin of this evidence. So in the work that we are doing as part of our research, I do research on genre, and our work with Skip MacArthur and is on genre-based strategy instruction. We present to students that when you write for three purposes. You write to persuade, to inform, to entertain, or convey experience. Because we say convey experience because when you will write into your journal, you just convey your experience. You don't write to entertain someone, because in this case, it is your personal experience that you are putting on the page of a notebook, or on that you're typing on the screen of your computer, but you don't necessarily expect someone to read it. So we say that you write for these three purposes, and then we engage students in a rhetorical analysis with the purpose of understanding in any reading task or in any writing task, what is the purpose of the reading or the purpose of the writing. And once they identify this, to question what is the genre that I will be working on, and then what are the structural elements of that genre. We have expanded this to also include the syntactic pieces that I need to have in mind, or the specific linguistic components, or even vocabulary I need to consider for this specific type of writing that I am doing, or this specific written work. So if the purpose is to persuade, you will have a beginning, middle, and end with topic, opinion, reasons, evidence, restatement of the position, and a message to the reader. If the purpose is to inform and you have a report, for instance, then you will have a topic, purpose, importance, main ideas, supporting details, a restatement of the purpose, and a message to the reader. If the purpose is to entertain or convey experience, you will have, again, a beginning, middle, and end with characters, time, place, problem, events, complications. I say complications because the goal in a story is to solve the problem. Sometimes, though, as the writers work or as their authors present their work, they will have more than one mini problems. So as the author, as the character is trying to solve the problem, will have an event, and then something else will happen, which will derail him or her, and then something else will happen, but the ultimate goal is to solve that problem, right? So, and that's what we see children often, students often find challenging in the writing, that the writing will have so many of these events and complications here, humorous at times, but they forget that the goal is to have a solution to this problem. Now, going back to what I was sharing earlier, this work can be, when you're referring to the purposes, can include arguments. So what is the purpose? To persuade, to argue on the topic. So you'll have a beginning, middle, and end where you are having a topic, the position, reasons, evidence, and this is the me side, my position, and the other's position, the opposing position, with reasons, evidence, rebuttal, and then a restatement of the position and a message for the reader. In this case, addressing now the syntactic pieces that I shared, which again, in the practice guide, the guidance is to support students' ability to express their themselves in writing using oral language too. You can utilize sentence frames, and that's what we will use, sentence starters and sentence frames for them to state their position, their opposing position, and have their rebuttal, because that part can be challenging. So I shared earlier that we are using a rhetorical analysis, and we use it both for writing and for reading. I just shared with you the process that we will use to support students' understanding of the genre, of what type of writing you do. And now when you're thinking of rhetorical analysis, we use a mnemonic that addresses form. What's the form of what I'm reading? And when I say form, is it an article? Is it a book? Is it a chapter book? Because for each one of them, you may have different expectations. So if it is a chapter book, you know that you will have, if it is a nonfiction, you may have different content presented from chapter to chapter, whereas all of them address the same big topic. So I may have the book to be on dolphins, but each one of the chapters may address different types of dolphins. That will be a chapter. Their behavior, that will be another one. Communication, that can be another one. So knowing the form makes the reader better filter the information of what they will be reading, as well as the time that they will be spending on a task. Then the next topic, the next question is, what's the topic? What's the title in this case? And then audience is, who is the reader for this specific book? Author, it's important to know who wrote this work, because then as a reader, you can think of other types of works and types of writings that the author is making. But also, if you're later in schooling, you will need to consider this. And of course, as a citizen, you need to consider this. And as an adult reader, what is the bias that the specific author has? Because it's important for you to know it, because then you will read, and you may read in a critical way the piece of writing that you have in front of you. And especially if you're doing social studies, you can understand what is the point of view of someone when it's presenting information in a specific way. So we included the author for that purpose, to make sure that students are taught to think of bias as well. And then purpose, what's the purpose of this? Is it to persuade, inform, entertain, convey experience? And what is the genre? Because if I know the genre, I can think of the elements, so I can take notes. So in this case, I have Babushka's doll. The form will be a picture book, and the title is Babushka's doll. Well, I don't know what babushka means, so I will have to look this up to know what the word means. Babushka means in Russian a grandmother. So it is the doll of the grandmother. Who is the audience? The class, children. And who is the author? Patricia Polacco. Patricia Polacco tends to write realistic fiction, as well as fantasy papers, fantasy types of books. What is the purpose? So if you look through the book, you'll see drawings and a little doll moving. So it's fantasy. And what are the elements of it? So I have a beginning, middle, and end, and then I have characters, time, place, problem, and then I will start taking notes, having in mind that structure, because I know that what I'm reading has these elements. So I don't enter the reading task without any expectation of what I'm going to be reading. On the contrary, I have a very good understanding of what I will be reading. I'll be reading a type of a story. So I expect to have characters with a description, with a name. I expect to have some type of a problem, and then specific events, possibly with complications. So if learners are taught to do this part of rhetorical analysis, as they read, they can stop and monitor what information they have acquired up to this point, in order to proceed with their reading and actively process the text. The same thing can be done when you're working with chapter books. The only important information is to make sure that you review the content from chapter to chapter or across chapters, to make sure that students piece together the information that they acquire across the different chapters. Now, I shared that this task analysis, the rhetorical analysis, applies for both reading and writing. So this is an example of a written assignment that it's common. It's a type of writing that students will see. So instead of them reading the question, the written prompt, a standalone prompt in this case, instead of just reading it and jumping into writing, they can read it, apply the rhetorical analysis, and then identify what is the purpose, what is the genre, what are the elements, in order for them to plan, draft, revise, edit their work. So they don't enter the task with a general understanding, I'm going to write something. They will filter information so that they will be knowledge transformers, to use Barreto Cardamalia's terms. They will be knowledge transformers to filter through in order to understand the specific expectations for this type of writing. So the topic says students often have small pets at school, such as hamsters or lizards. Some people say that larger pets, such as cats, dogs, and rabbits, should not be in the classroom because they can be disruptive. Okay. Other people say that all pets help children learn how to care for others. Write a paper saying if you believe that students should have larger pets in the classroom or not. Use specific reasons and examples to support your response. Okay, I like animals. I like hamsters. I like lizards. So because I may misinterpret though what the expectation is, I'm going to do my analysis. Okay, so what is my form? What is it that I'm writing? It says write a paper. So I'm writing a paper. When it says a paper and not a paragraph, not specifics, I understand that it is an essay with a beginning, middle, and end. And then what is the title? Pets. Okay, so I'm going to write my form is paper. The topic is pets, but it's not just pets because the author said larger pets, right? It didn't say whether to have pets in the classroom, whether to have larger pets in the classroom. That was the question, really. And this makes a big difference in the way that this topic is presented. Okay, and then who is the author in this case? I'm the author. I'm the one who is writing it. It's my view on this issue. And who is the audience? Well, this is a policy paper, so it will be the principal, the teachers, the students, the parents, which means that I am addressing the stakeholders, and my vocabulary needs to be formal in some ways and needs to acknowledge them and the power they have in order to make the decision to grant me permission on this or not. And what is the purpose? The purpose is to persuade, because the topic said clearly, write a paper in which you provide reasons and evidence. But I also understood that there is a controversy. Some say this and the others say the other, something else. So because of this controversy, then I need to take a position and address the issue of whether students should have larger pets in the classroom, or large pets in the classroom or not. Okay, so I know I'm writing to persuade. What are the elements then of persuasion? Beginning, middle, and end, with topic, opinion, reasons, evidence. And that way I will present these elements. And you see, I have them in a table here, but I'm trying to demonstrate that it is not a matter of having a worksheet. It's a matter of remembering the elements, because these are the core of understanding the text structure and understanding genre expectations. So if you know that everything has a beginning, middle, and end, then you're going to know that it will have a topic, opinion, or position or thesis, the reasons, evidence, the restatement of the position or thesis, and a message to the reader. Here is another assignment. A boy wakes up in the middle of the night and hears a creaking sound coming from his ceiling. What could that be? Write a story about what will happen next. Now, if I do the same process, I will say, what's the form? It's a story. Okay, it's a paper, it's a story. So it will have beginning, middle, and end. And then what is the title? It doesn't have it. What's the topic I'm writing about? Oh, it's about a boy that wakes up in the middle of the night. Yeah, but what is the specific question? The question is, write what will happen next. Next to what? Okay, I need to be thinking of this. What's happening next? And then who is the audience? It's a story. I think it's to entertain. So it must be my classmates, my teachers. If it is type of grading, then I know that's the stakeholders again. And then what is the genre? It's a story. Okay, now at this point, I do know that this is a story. If I know that's a story, I know it has a beginning, it will have a middle, and it will have an end. So at the beginning, I will have characters, time, place, and problem. What does this title, this topic gives me? It gives me the character. It's a boy. It doesn't have a name, so I can name that child. And then what is the time? It's the middle of the night, spooky time. And then what's the place? It's the bedroom, the child's bedroom. And then what's the problem? There's a creaking sound coming from the ceiling. So already by doing this rhetorical analysis and by considering the information, the topic, I know that the beginning is already provided. So as a writer, I do not work anymore on the beginning. I will start from the middle, meaning that I need to begin with events. So that's what this rhetorical analysis allows you to do, because that way you're connecting this analysis of the topic allows you to better filter the information in order to classify what you do and how, and proceed with the writing. Now, I have another assignment, which is, I would say that this is more challenging, more demanding. This was part of 4th and 5th grade work. And we also did a similar topic, but we used more challenging texts and with middle schoolers. So here is the topic that we used in that study. Christopher Columbus is celebrated as the man who discovered the New World. There are statues of him in the United States, and he's portrayed as an explorer who contributed with his discovery and work. However, not all share that belief. Some people find that he is given far more credit than he should receive, and he should not be portrayed as a peaceful explorer, but as a villain. Write a paper sharing whether you think that Columbus should be celebrated as a peaceful explorer or not. Provide clear reasons and evidence from the text to support your opinion. So in this case, it's the same process of analysis. And once the student understood that this is, again, it's an argument that they are writing, we had provided them with different readings that they were expected to read, take notes, utilize the information to synthesize and write a paper drawing from the evidence provided. And we had, even though this says pro-con, we had removed the pro-con so that they would not tell that this was an in favor and against paper. But the title was, Should We Celebrate Christopher Columbus? This was much more of an informative text. And this was an opinion text about dumbing down history doesn't do students any favors. So you can see that there were different genres that the students had to read, take notes, and sum that information, not summarize just, but they had to select the information that was better supporting their points and the reasons in order to persuade the reader. Again, in this case, they would do the task analysis. They would identify the genre elements. For those who were working on persuasion, on opinion writing, they would use the elements of opinion. And for those who were working with argumentation, they would use the elements of argument. So when we look at the reading and writing connections, this rhetorical analysis really is connecting between the two. So when you're looking at the form, in the case of writing will be an essay, a letter, a book, or something else. Same with reading. In the case of topic title, what's the topic I'm writing about? What is the exact question? In the case of reading, it will be, what's the title of the book? Is there any vocabulary that's unknown? Because if you don't know that vocabulary, it will be a challenge to figure out the rest of the information, especially if this is about a specific topic that it's new. Who is the audience? Who is the reader? And that goes across. And then who is the author? What is my perspective? Am I writing as myself? Do I take the position of someone else? Do I take the point of view of someone else? Am I writing as me, or am I writing as a character in a story, or as a historical figure? Because if I do, then I need to be aware of my setting, especially if I'm writing as a historical figure. What are the implications overall on my vocabulary, on my tone, on my grammar, and on my style? And in the case of reading, who is the author? What other readings have it done by the same author? Is the author also the illustrator? Because sometimes you will see authors saying additional information or the opposite information. So there is a play between a text and images. And what are the possible biases that this author has? For the purpose, what's the purpose? To persuade, inform, entertain, the piece of pie. That's what we say when we introduce it to students, that there is what piece of the purpose's pie is the reading or the writing. And then what are the organizational features for that genre? How is it organized? So overall then, across this reading and writing, we are looking as genre as the umbrella between the two. So good readers, they use text structure in order to understand the purpose of what they read, to use specific strategies based on what they are reading, to organize the information, take notes, and summarize their work. And in the case of writing, we know that writers, strong writers, they will make connections between the writing purpose and the type of writing, so that way they will be better able to organize the information, to communicate with readers within that discourse, organize their paper, and use the genre also in order to self-evaluate. So these are the resources that we will use in our case if we were working on in a classroom with students. They will do the task analysis, they will identify the purposes pie, they will identify the genre and the elements. And then if they knew that they were working on persuasion, they would develop ideas in favor and against. They will select the idea that will decide, that will become their position, and then they will transfer their position into the graphic organizer, which again, you don't need a worksheet. It's just beginning, middle, and end, and writing the elements. And then they would transfer the ideas, and that's the key, from the side that they represent, that they have most evidence to support, or their reading support. And then they will take notes, use their sentence frames and transition words to write. And once they finish, they would use an evaluation rubric to evaluate their work. In this case, again, in our work, because it's based on genre, we use evaluation criteria for students to self-evaluate as well as to peer review, that they reflect the elements of the genre. So in this case, we will have topic, position, reason, evidence. There can be more than three, but we have three. But again, if everything is outside of the lines of a worksheet and a chart, students can do this simply on a paper pencil or on the computers directly, actually. And then at the very end, you see there are other elements that they are important for a paper: a title, the tone, and whether there's clarity. If there is information that the students take and use from readings, then we also have an expectation for whether the information is cited correctly, whether the information is presented accurately, the content is accurate, and whether there is a reference for that information. And we use a system of 0, 1, 2. 0, the element is present. 1 is not as clear, and 2, it is well presented. So earlier, when I presented to you the ways that reading and writing are connected, writing and reading are connected, I shared that analyzing the work of others and readings, it can improve a student's writing, and it can improve their ability to write themselves on that type of writing. So in our program, we always start our work by evaluating good and weak examples. And that's because we try to not only activate the schema for the students of what this type of writing will be and what is the focus of what you will be doing and what you will be learning, but also because we want to show them this is the expectation, this is what you will be able to write at the very end of this work. So the evaluation is based on the elements of that genre. So we are using this beginning, middle, and end with topic, position, reasons, evidence, restatement, and message to the reader. So we read, and the teacher models this process, does not ask the students, because remember, this is a presentation in a way and demonstration of how critically you analyze and you I want to say again dissect, but you analyze and understand the content. So I know that when I'm writing, in this case, it's what's the form, it's a paper, what's the title. Saturday, this is our day. Okay, I understand that there is some controversy here about Saturday. Okay, and who is the audience? This is our day, students, I guess, maybe. This is, I'm reading it in a classroom. And who is the author? I think it's a student. What is the purpose? The purpose is to, I'm reading the first paragraph and it says, in my opinion, to convince. Okay, so his purpose or their purpose is to convince. So I'm going to be looking for these elements of beginning, middle, and end with topic, opinion, reasons, evidence, and restatement, and a message. Okay, so I will read the beginning. Students spend a great amount of time in schools. They're in school 180 days every year, from Monday to Friday, every week of a month. Students wake up in the morning and they spend more than 6 hours in a classroom, but some grown-ups. Okay, so far, I had information about what students do, and that I learned that they are in school 180 days, and they spend 5 days into the school every month, 5 days of every week. In 4 weeks in a month, they are in school, and they are in school for 6 hours. Okay, but this is the controversy now. Some grown-ups that are not named in this case think that children should spend more time in the classrooms to improve their performance in math and reading. In my opinion, there should not be any school on Saturday. Okay, what is the opinion of the reader? The opinion is there should not be any school on Saturday. Is it clear to me as a reader? What's the opinion of the author? It is that there should not be any school on Saturday. Is it clear to me as a reader? Yes, it is very clear. So I'm going to give a score of a 2. And what about the position? What the whole issue, the whole concern? Is it well elaborated? Yes, I understand the controversy, and I understand that this is a bitter learner who says that I'm spending a lot of time in school already, and someone wants to have me go back longer time. I think it's presented clearly. Then I will continue with the rest of the elements, and I will analyze as a teacher. And in the same way that I just did, I will be analyzing, identifying the element, underlining it, and talking through to show that the clearer the organization of the information is, the easier it is for the reader to make sense. And then at the very end, when everything is completed, I will comment on the goals of the author. In this case, the paper was well written. I would say continue using your strategies in order to be as successful and convincing to your reader and clear when you communicate with readers. This is now another example. I will do again my FTAP analysis, which is my rhetorical analysis. So what's the form? It's a paper. I can immediately tell it's shorter than the other paper. What's the title? Vending machines in cafeterias, not for the best, but for the worst. Okay, I understand that there is a concern about the presence of vending machines in cafeterias, and it seems that they are perceived not to be for the best, but have a negative effect from this author. Who is the audience? The classroom students, I presume. And then who is the author? I think it's a student. And what is the purpose? Well, I'm reading the first paragraph and says no vending machines. I think it's to persuade to not have vending machines in the classroom, which is something I could tell from the topic, from the title already. So I will be looking for the same elements of beginning, middle, and end, topic and position, reasons, evidence, restatement, message to the reader in order to make sense of the paper and identify the goals for the author. Okay, so in our school, we have cafeteria food. It's the best. We have salads and fruits. We get pizza every Friday. In general, we have healthy options, and everyone supports a healthy lifestyle. So far, I am reading about cafeterias and cafeteria food, but I thought that the topic was about vending machines. So the position now is no vending machines. Okay, so I understand that the student has the position not to have vending machines in the cafeteria. However, the way that it's presented lacks that syntactic and grammatical structure that I would expect in a paper that is within this context. So I would say that the position is there, it's present, but it is not as clear. And then also I would say that the issue, part of the issue is presented, but it is not clear. And that's because I only see the side of the cafeteria. I do not understand where the vending machine issue comes in. And then I will proceed again to analyze the text exactly in the same way, looking for the reasons, identifying the evidence, and giving scores. And not just scoring for the number, but examining the clarity for the reader, because students write for readers. In the classroom, the reader is the teacher, but they need to be thinking as the reader broadly, because you have the intended audience and you have the actual audience. In a classroom, their audience is the teacher, but their intended audience may be outside, broader from the classroom. As a result, they need to be thinking of the vocabulary, words that they should be considering, also the terms that they are related and relevant to this context for which they are appealing to and they're writing to. So at the very end, once everything is completed and notes have been taken, the teacher can discuss with the students goals. What are the goals for this author? And the goals in this case will be to clearly provide information, statement of position, to clearly introduce the topic, also to have a clearer presentation of the second reason and of the evidence for it, restate the opinion, which was missing completely, and have a message to the reader. So as a teacher, if a student was extremely overwhelmed, or if that was something that was too challenging, you could set specific goals for them to proceed in the next writing. So state clearly that the main goal is to use the strategies. Based on the strategies we can use, we can better navigate through the challenging writing process, because it's cognitively demanding, but metacognitively demanding too, because we need to monitor what we do and how we proceed. But for the next paper, the main goal will be for me as a writer, for you as a writer, to clearly state your position, to provide your reason with evidence, and restate your position. And then you could work potentially in a mini lesson, structured mini lesson for the more than one student in a small group on effective beginnings and closings. So that way they could see how the beginning and the end can in some ways connect. Or you could provide a mini lesson for that specific group that has that specific need on how to introduce the topic and how to end your paper. So again, this can take a fancier form or a simple form, and it's exactly the same elements again of 0, 1, 2. Now, this is an example of morning starters where the students had topics that the teacher would put up on the board, and they had 2 minutes to quickly write on their desks and record very quickly the task analysis, and they would write it on their own. They just made it on their own. In this case, the topic is, I'm sorry, I cannot see that well. Santa is hiring a new head elf. Write a letter to Santa persuading him to hire you. Give at least 3 good reasons why you deserve the job. So the student wrote letter for form. The title is Why Santa Should Hire Me. Who is the audience? Santa. Who is the author? Me. And what is the purpose? To persuade. And she wrote persuade. But they did it independently, they did it on their own. And the goal was to train in a way their brain in reading through carefully, because that is the challenge. Sometimes it can be too overwhelming to understand what I need to do and how I'm supposed to write. So this rhetorical analysis allows the students to filter the information in order to better understand what the expectation in their work is. And this is an example with middle schoolers who were working on our project, where they were reading the articles and they were taking notes, and then they were typing their work directly on their Chromebooks. Now, I shared earlier that there is a connection between reading and writing. This is from a colleague at the University of North Carolina. She posted this on Facebook, and I asked for her permission to use it, actually. She posted the message of her daughter. My mom killed baby birdies, and that's what the child wrote. And the mother responded, in my defense, I would like to state that I was removing bird nests from under our deck, and one had baby birds in it. We returned the nest to where we found it. I do not go around hunting baby birds, but it was that connection between the fact, the information presented by the author, the response of the observer to the external reader. So it is, again, this interconnection between reading and writing and thinking and acting, which are not separate, and they are not in boxes and silos. This work can be found online on our website, but also in print. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My university email is posted at the top, and I have also my Gmail account, because sometimes the messages can be blocked. And I would like to thank you. And I have included some references at the very end that they reflect the content of what I presented earlier. And I will stop sharing, and I will also stop the recording so we can have a conversation. The challenge, of course, is at times to figure out how to close the recording. Give me just a second so that I can stop it.